Hey, rockers and punk rockers all around the globe. Thanks for checking out the video. You know what, man? I've been getting asked for the longest time, man, why don't you do videos about Beautiful Bert? Well, the reason I haven't is because I have so many memories of Beautiful Bert, I didn't know where to begin. And then I thought about it for a while, and I thought, whenever I hung out with the crew from Kenosha, Wisconsin, I almost always, 9 out of 10 times, was blasted out of my mind on alcohol and or other things. And that's the truth. Let's face it, Wisconsin is known for beer drinking. And that's primarily what I would do in Wisconsin. And when the guys would come down to play and visit me in Illinois, we partied a lot, man. Let's face it. Back in the day, everyone in the 80s, 90s, we were drinking it up, man. I personally haven't had a drink. Well, I have, but not gotten drunk since 2013. Yeah, I think I've had a glass of wine to celebrate my album being released last year. And I had a half a pint when I was over in Scotland of some apple ale or something and had very little alcohol, but I haven't gotten drunk since 2013. But back in the day, that's what we did. And the Kenosha crew, man, were the kings of partying. You get Beautiful Bert Dean Dirt from 1096, throw in all the other personalities from both their bands and all the crew and the other bands in Kenosha and all the personalities. It was really cool. Kenosha was a lot of fun. Now, I'm not advocating for people to drink or say it's cool. I'm just telling you a story from back in the time. I met Beautiful Bert back in 1985, June of 85 or July, one of the two. And then we became friends. He wasn't in a band at that point. I don't know if he had been previous, but he wasn't then. I was in a band called Hate. We would go play Kenosha. It became a really second home to me for a long time. I spent a lot of time in Kenosha at the home of Dean Dirt, a.k.a. Dean Lipke from Kenosha, Wisconsin, and the singer for 1096, Mental Subject. And he was my best friend for a long time up until his death. So it's with great admiration and tribute that I do this video. I hope nothing's ever taken out of context because I miss those guys, and all my memories are fond. And all my intentions are good. And they're all crazy memories. Some of them not good. But hey, man, it's all real. And according to my memory, all I can say is it's the truth according to what I remember. Beautiful Bert and 1096 came down to Peoria, Illinois to play. One of many, many times they would come to the area. They were kind of legends in that area because of coming down to play a lot. And whenever they did, there was always chaos or some kind of crazy stuff going on. And I have many stories coming about 1096 too. I've been putting these on paper lately and they're coming to me. Shout out to my good friend James Jimmy Jack Strevels in Peoria, Illinois for being a great wealth of information. Although there's a couple things, or maybe one thing from the past he doesn't remember like I do. But I've learned one thing, my friends. When you get older, like past 45, 50, everyone has memory lapses, and you'll talk to friends and have completely different memories until something comes along to make you go, oh yeah, that's right. And that happens a lot. And so if there's anything in my stories that I get a little bit off, it's just the memory thing, man. But there's certain things that I do remember, and if it's a detail in a story, it's true. I'm not going to make up details. That would be called fiction. These are nonfiction stories. So shout out to Jimmy Jack. Love you, bro. Thank you for the information regarding the night we partied with 1096 and Bert. They came to the Great Barrier Reef in Peoria. Before I get into the story, I want to show you their album, Beautiful Bert and the Luscious Ones. This album came out, I believe, 96, 97. Beer City Records. Killer album, man. Killer album. It's absolutely, undeniably one of my favorite rock/punk and roll records ever from the Midwest. If you haven't heard this record, you're missing out. And it's on YouTube. You can find it. Beautiful Bert and the Luscious Ones. It's worth a listen, man. I'm telling you, it's the real deal. Beer City Records, that's a label I really haven't had any interaction with, but I highly respect. They put out some killer music over the years. Shout out Beer City Records if you see this video. Also, inside the album, it was nice to get back and see the photos that were in the old school collage that Bert put in his album. And on the back, I was reading the thank you list. And right there, it says, thanks to Bloody Mess, call me, I lost your number. So Bert had lost my number and he was giving me a message in his record. And the the liner notes or the thank yous. Pretty cool, man. If you stick around to the end of this video, I've got some really cool stuff to show you, including some autographed Bert stuff and other stuff that he's on that you might not know exists. Beautiful Bert's got a hell of an underground following that's become way bigger over the years. When people leave their bodies, they become like martyrs of rock and roll. And I'm glad to say that Dean Dirt and Beautiful Bert are put up on the pedestal where they should be, because if you ever saw those guys perform live or even hung out with them in person, they were the real deal. Real punk rock, real rock and rollers that just were kind of like that all the time, though they had many sides to their personalities. That's just the way it is, you know. Some people call it the Jekyll and Hyde thing. I don't. There's just many sides to some people, and some people are boring. These guys were the furthest thing in the world from boring. Man, I saw Beautiful Bert perform some crazy shows. Bert was a big dude, man, a really big guy, and he wasn't ashamed of it. I mean, there was times he did bum out about it privately, yeah, of course. Anyone battling anything. But Bert accepted the way he was, and he would shine in his beautiful glory. They called him the Beautiful One. And I believe he did some not professional wrestling, but he was really into professional wrestling. And on the record it says, professional wrestling is real, politics are not. That's from Beautiful Bert, man. Those guys were awesome. I got to say, rest in peace to Brian Bert Phillips, who did pass away or leave his body at the age of 48 back in 2008. Actually, it was February the 24th, 2008. Had to write it down because my memory, you know, if I don't write certain details down. Yeah, Brian Bert Phillips, rest in peace, brother. And also Dean Dirt from 1096 passed away November 1st, 1998 at the age of 38, sadly, as well. Rest in peace, my brother. This video, you're being remembered, and I know that's what you guys would dig. So they came to play in Peoria at the Great Barrier Reef. And it was a really intense deal, man. Basically, Bert and I were getting along fine. I was playing with a band called Bloody and the Vanes. It was Bloody and the Vanes, 1096, Beautiful Bert, maybe other bands. I don't think so. Maybe there were. But what happened was I scored a big bag of mushrooms, like magic mushrooms, like psilocybin, about this big. I don't know. Someone donated it to me for some weird reason. I don't know how it happened. I forgot. But I brought that to the gig that night. Good thinking, idiot, right? Oh my gosh. It was just an insane night. One of those nights that it's hard to capture into words. We got to the club. I remember the first time Dean Dirt ever stepped inside this particular club out in Bellevue, Illinois, completely out in the middle of nowhere on the outside of Peoria. Dean walks in and he goes, "What? This is a bar? It's not all ages?" And I go, "Man, it's a bar, but we get great crowds here." And he went ballistic. He was so pissed because he had all these ethics about, we're going to play for the kids and that's it, period. We're not doing bars or 21 and over. So when he got there, he thought it was all ages. It wasn't, but it was cool. And that might have been a different show, but it was at the same venue. But they were back. Beautiful Bert, the Vanes, 1096. Everyone was backstage partying, drinking. It was a really dark bar with like no low lighting, lots of back rooms, and just a really cool rock and roll bar. And we played there a lot, and especially my band, the Vanes. Shout out to those guys. 1096 was just killer that night, just nuts. But the thing is, once we all started performing, that's when the shrooms just started kicking in, and they kicked in hardcore because I gave everybody a big handful out of the bag, and everyone, including Bert, members of 1096, members of the Vanes, I believe, we were all tripping balls. And I mean, I'm talking full-on hallucinations, auditory, weird experiences with the sound. And I just remember 1096 was super intense. Dean was sweating and people were just tripping on him. And he was tripping, literally. And he was an intense dude before ever performing, trust me. Mooney was on drums, Dean Dirt on the vocals. Bass player was either Kenneth or it was Randy Rude. I think it was Randy Rude, but I could be wrong. I reached out, haven't heard back from Randy about this particular thing. So I thought, well, I'll get both their names in there. It was one of them. It was either Kenneth or Randy, respectively. Shout out to those guys. Of course, oh my gosh, Joe. I'm sorry, man. I'm having a brain lapse because I'm thinking of a further part of this story. Joe Presterol on guitar, legend. 1096, super intense, man, right? Beautiful Bert gets up there. He's super intense. Thing is, everyone was tripping so heavily that it was almost hard to, it was like we were all hallucinating and tripping, and everything was, we were laughing, and everything went by like a big blur that night, you know. I remember when I was on stage, I literally at one point, the band was playing, and all I could hear was at one point, like one bass note, doom, 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 doom. And I could hear a cymbal playing on the drums, but everybody else was playing like normal, but that's all I could hear. And I was thinking, holy shit. I was literally tripping that hard. And the whole band was, and everyone in the audience, because I was giving them out to everybody. And it was nuts, man. Not everyone, but a lot of people. Well, everybody performed. I just remember being on stage thinking, oh my God, just keep singing to the best of your ability. But I was definitely walking on my lips about then. The whole band was. I remember Dean Dirt and Bert and everybody in front watching our band. It was like, oh my God, some of these guys that I just think are legends. And when you're tripping, I was like, look at these guys that are such killer rockers. And Dean Dirt, Mr. Punk Rock, freaking skinhead, just gypsy outlaw warrior. Anyway, after the show, the owners of the club said to us, you guys can sleep upstairs. They had a great upstairs with all these little couches and tables and, you know, private bar kind of section. And all the band was up there. Everything was great. It was packed full before the show. All these punk rockers hanging out from Peoria and Kenosha. And we're all drinking and smokes everywhere. Back in the days when cigarettes were still everywhere. The place was just rock and roll to the hilt. Not saying that smoking cigarettes is rock and roll, but I'm telling you, that's what was happening with these rock and rollers. And dude, it was crazy. When the show was over, somehow we started drinking all kinds of alcohol and it was mixing with the psilocybin in a bad way. Me and Bert somehow got into an argument. Can't tell you why. This happened many times during our friendship it started about 95 until about 2008. We had an on and off relationship for years and years. Love you, hate you, love you, hate you. But it was mostly because of alcohol related crap and misunderstandings on me and Bert's part. When he did pass away in 2008, we were buddies. He had come out to see my band play in Milwaukee, brought a joint. He walked in with a joint and he goes, hey man, I'm bringing this in peace, brother. And I go, hey man, I love you. And we went to a party after that. I'll tell that story later. That's another complete story. But when those guys played that night, it was just like Peoria was so overwhelmed because they're such legends. And I can't tell you the set list. I was too waxed, but I can tell you it was one of the most packed and interesting shows that place has ever had. With all those energies and personalities, Bert and Dean and, well, myself with my spastic ass, and plus all the talent of the bands behind it, man. I'm not sure who was in Bert's band at that time. No disrespect intended for the former members of his bands, but I just don't recall. Shout out to Bully on bass, Tim Fires on the drums, and Dave Glover on guitar from the former VAYNES band. This happened in 1998-99, this story. I can't remember, but when they came to town, we were going to stay upstairs, right? Well, once me and Bert started getting into an argument, it was this close to becoming physical, and we didn't want to go there. I could tell he didn't really want to do that. I didn't want to do that. But when you're drinking whiskey and beer and tripping, and you start to have a feud, all logic goes out the freaking punk rock window, man. It does. And me and Bert were just getting into it. We weren't seeing eye to eye. I think Dean was kind of egging us on. He could be provocative like that. And he'd be in the background being like, oop, and saying stuff to like a smart ass comment. And then he'd go, oop, and then like run away. Dean was a crazy one. I loved him, man. I miss him. And me and Bert were like this. We're getting ready to get into it, man. And instead, he would be like, hey, you this and that, blah, blah, blah. And he'd smash like the pitcher on the table and it like glass would shatter. And then I picked up the table and smashed the table on like the couch. And then he picked up the couch and smashed the couch up against the wall. And then we had holes in the walls. Every table, every piece of furniture, and all the glass in that room was just completely destroyed. People were like, what are you guys? Hey. And by the time they were trying to stop it or intervene or just when they were done laughing, we were done smashing and everything was just freaking destroyed, man. And it's, you know, not something we were proud of later, but you know, that night we were both just in an insane mood from this really crazy, irrational mix of drugs and alcohol. And it was just really off the charts. I remember at one point, my buddy James Strevels has to carry my buddy Bill Boughton, who's in a wheelchair, guy I've known since 7th grade, still do. Shout out Poison Bee. He had to carry Bill Boughton is his name. Bill Boughton. Did I say a different name? Bill Boughton was there. Poison Bee and he was so out of it with on booze that my buddy had to carry him up the stairs because he was in a wheelchair, and we had to go up these big stairs to get to the upstairs where the band was staying. Well, we thought that's where we were going to stay, and then you know what happened? At about 5 in the morning, after this massive long fight between Bert and I, bringing everybody down with our negativity, and when he got pissed off, he got real pissed off, and same here. Thing about Bert, he's one of the most big-hearted guys you will ever meet on the face of the earth. Cool as hell, just a loving guy, good with kids, loved everybody. But whenever he got mad, that was it. It was warpath. And for some reason that night, we were both hating each other. Well, after we got kicked out, because the owners finally came up there at like 5 or 6 in the morning, they're all downstairs doing whatever they were doing. I won't say anything further there. I don't want to incriminate the guilty. But whatever they were doing, and I haven't named any names, I stayed out of it and then stayed upstairs with my crew of drunken, complete punk rock lunatics. And everything was just destroyed. Every glass, every table, every couch and chair. And people were just freaking out. It looked like 30 or 40 people that just came in with sledgehammers. And it was all me and Bert. From my knowledge. Now, if you were there, leave a comment. Please subscribe to the channel and like the video if you did like it at the end. I got a lot more Bert stories coming, so come on, guys. Give me a little support. Hey, man, I made some other notes. It's not the first time that I ever tripped with a band. No. Back in 1987 or early 88, I was living in Greeley, Colorado, and the Necros, the Necros picked me up in a van, the old punk rock band with Barry Hensler on vocals and Todd Swalla on drums. And they picked me up in a van, and Keith Morris from the Circle Jerks was with them. Well, they picked me up because I had a bunch of acid. And they said, hey, man, Todd had never done acid before. I think the other guys had, and I definitely had. And I turned them all onto it, and I ended up tripping with the Necros and Keith Morris from the Circle Jerks. We went to see a band called The Fluid at some kind of recreation center in Boulder, Colorado. But that's a different story. And you can hear the interview with Barry Hensler of the Necros and Todd Swalla from the Necros on my other channel, The Church of Rock, all one word. Please subscribe there and check out those interviews for more on that story on me tripping with those cats. This night we were tripping, and once the owner came, we were tripping even more because he said, get the hell out. You guys done destroyed everything. We don't owe you any money. You owe us money. We were all like, holy hell, the mushrooms, the booze, all of us being completely unstable. I mean, 1096 stands for mental subject in police code. Hello? Dean would love this. And, well, we decided to leave. I don't know where the other guys went. Everybody was kind of pissed off at me and Bert. I think everyone was sick and tired of our negativity. They're tripping. Everyone was sensitive to everything, and I don't blame them. And guess who ended up with who? Me and Bert ended up in my car with our buddy James Streevels in the back seat. And Bert was really on a rampage. He wanted to kill me, man. He was like really wanting to like just punch me. And I was like, do it, do it. And I was like getting intense with it. Like, come on, bro. I dare you to hit me the first time. You'll regret it, bro. And he was doing the same to me. But no one's throwing a punch, which we never did in all those years of back and forth feuding. Never got physical between us, ever. Thank goodness. That's a good thing, man. Because we were brothers. But we just, I don't know. Kind of like me and Joe from 1096. We are bros. But we used to get drunk, and when we did, we would end up in a field beating the crap out of each other very physically all the time. And we would laugh it off the next day. So we had thick skin, and we'd be like, just another night drunk in a field. Beating the crap out of each other for no reason. I don't know why, because me and that guy are good buddies. I love Joe. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I love that guy. Joe, wherever you're at, I know you're in Kenosha. Call me, bro, or I'll call you. Anyway, dudes, dudettes, and those in between, we ended up getting in my car, Beautiful Bert, me, James Streevels, and I decided the only way I could get even with Beautiful Bert for being the villain in my eyes under these mushrooms and whiskey and beer was to go 90 or 100 miles an hour. And what we decided to do was go to the trailer of former Bloody Mess in the Scabs bass player Kevin Beveridge. What a legend. Kevin, you rock. So we go to Kevin's trailer. It's about a couple miles down the road. And I decided to do like 90, 100 miles an hour. I believe it was 90 or 95. But I mean, my foot was on the pedal. And it was like, ooh, and Bert is literally getting ready to crap himself. He's so scared that he's like, okay, I'm cool, man. Let's just call it even. Come on, buddy. And he was so scared of a car going fast that I realized, aha. And I was wasted, guys. I would never do this to my friend on purpose if I wasn't. But I decided, oh, that's what gets you, you prick. And I decided to just keep doing it. And dude, I never thought I saw a guy gonna drop dead right there in the car from me speeding and scaring the crap out of him. But I continued until I got to the trailer. I did not get popped for a DUI. I didn't get caught, thank goodness. But when we got to Kevin's trailer, it was a nightmare because Bert was just on a rampage, verbally abusing me. I was getting tired of it. James Strevel's, poor James is sitting there. Kevin's just like, God dang, I thought I was crazy. Kevin, I love that guy's character, man. He would be popping the V's and drinking the booze and be like, yeah, you guys are mental. But he'd laugh the whole time, haha, like we were a comedy duo. But me and Bert were still on this negative trip arguing. I don't know what the deal was because I love that guy. What a rocker. And he's a big Hanoi Rocks fan. That's why I'm wearing this shirt in memorial to Bert. And dude, this is where me and my friend James have a difference of opinion or difference of memory. And this is not meant in any way as a form of anything, but just my truth. That night, Bert ripped Jim's shirt, and he either ripped it off entirely or he ripped it all, down the middle to where it was like, whoa. And that's when me and Kevin and even James were just like, are you kidding me, man? Right now? And I was really pissed then at Bert, and that just started up another war. And I just remember James was not going to take any more of this crap because I think Bert was verbally abusing him and just being mean. And Jimmy did acknowledge that part. But James, it's just an opinion difference, bro. The reason I remember is because when you left, it was cold out, and I kept thinking, wow, not only did you just do that to my friend who's just sitting here not doing anything, but now he's got to walk home in the cold, and I was too blazed to get back in the car and drive. I had to come down for like 4 or 5 hours, pop some of those V's and drink something, But it was bad back then. We were always doing crazy stuff like that. And poor Jimmy ended up saying, I'm out. He just didn't, he quietly, to his respect, it was a good memory because he just said, I'm done. And he shut the door and he left. And then I sat there in my drunken bliss going, oh my God. And then the war started up even more when Jimmy left because I was going off on him for making my friend have to walk home with his shirt like that. That's the only reason I'm pretty adamant that did happen. But either way, I digress. It's not a big deal. The big deal is, though, we ended up staying at Kevin Beverages. He put on some music. Eventually that night, me and Bert shook hands, and we literally started laughing like demons at one point because we both realized, what were we even fighting about? Neither one of us could remember. That's what happened. And it was just insane. Just an insane night of punk rock. I wish I had more details. I wish I had the set list. I wish I had more for you on that story. The dudes and dudettes and those in between. But seriously, I've got a whole bunch of Bert stories from like Dirty Nellies in Palatine, Illinois. Bert live at the zoo, a basement party in Peoria, Illinois. Bert live in Peoria, Illinois, downtown at SOPs. Oh my gosh, there's all these stories, backstories about Gigi Allen playing drums for Bert at the Odd Rock Cafe in Milwaukee when Gigi went to jail that night. And I'll tell you a little story about that later that involves Dean Dirt. And it's it's a short one, but it's a true one. I could do a whole series on Dean Dirt stories alone. If you're a fan of 1096 from Kenosha, Wisconsin, and if you're not, or leave a comment. And if you're not, check out the 1096 album on Beer City Records. It's called No Retreat, one of the best hardcore punk records in the history of hardcore punk records. Gee, talk much, bloody. But you guys, I can't say enough good things about Bert and Dean Dirt and those guys, especially those two guys that I'm talking about now. Bert was a great guy. You could go to his apartment and hang out, and he'd have all these old rock and roll posters on the wall, and he'd always have a stack of the coolest records from like Thin Lizzy and Hanoi Rocks, and then he'd have like UK Subs or whatever. Just a rocker, dude, Bert was really the real deal. He lived in like a little one-room, like little studio, really, really small, and he had like a little hot plate for his cooking, and he just ate like a gypsy, lived like a gypsy. I'd go to the soup kitchen when I was staying in Kenosha often, and I'd be there 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And we'd all go to the soup kitchen. All the punk rockers would be there to get a meal because it was a hot meal every day, served buffet style by really kind people. And we were all very, very respectful to those people. And Dean Dirt always made sure everyone kept in line when we went there. If anyone was drunk or this or that, he would say either be cool or I'll throw you out out of here kind of thing, because there was some ethics to a lot of our friendships. It wasn't all just debauchery and we don't care about anything. These people had hearts and souls, and they were great people. Long live Beautiful Bert and Dean Dirt. And I want to show you some stuff related to Bert real quick before I get out of here. This is a cool record with Wanda Chrome and the Leather Pharaohs, with Beautiful Bert doing I Want to Be Your Dog. The great Iggy and the Stooges classic, right? Great 7-inch record. Proud to own that. And there's other stuff that I don't have anymore by Bert, but this is what I do have. Thanks to my brother Ricky in Racine, Wisconsin for this. When I lost all my stuff in the 2020 Alameda fires in Oregon and California, most of my stuff, 95% of it, in my storage units, all my autographed Bert records burnt, man. But Ricky, thank you for giving this or trading this to me down. We traded for some artwork by an infamous person that did the cover art for the first Bloody Mess and the Scabs record. And you know who I'm talking about if you know that record. But anyway, I gave Ricky some original artwork by him that's really valuable, and he gave me my money's worth. And this is one of the things, autographed by Bert. Great 7-inch by Bert and the Luscious Ones. Speaking of Bert, here's another record he's on, another 7-inch Plasmatics tribute. That's right. I was a teenage Plasmatic, and it has a lot of really cool bands, including the BB Slags, the Beautiful Bert Slags, the Loudmouths, the Black Rebels, Dayglow Abortions, the Triggers, Spits, Nearly Deads. Great stuff. Tribute to the great Wendy O. Williams, who I'm proud to say was a friend. I'm a hardcore fanatic of the Plasmatics, big time, to say the least. Always Plasmatic. Check it out, man. And this is a tribute album that I'm super grateful that came out in 2003, Black and Blue Records. A lot of bands around the country were kind enough to record songs of mine and past bands I was in, and they put it out on a record called Bloody and the Bastard Children. A lot of great tunes, man, including Beautiful Bert and the Boys. And, you know, I'm always going to be very, very grateful for the Slags. It was the BB Slags doing Ugly Friends, which was originally on the first Bloody Mess and the Scabs 7-inch. So this is pretty cool. It's a real punk rock, dirty, street version of Ugly Friends. Beautiful Bert, rest in peace. Once again, you got to check this thing out on YouTube, man. Beautiful Bert and the Luscious Ones. He does a lot of cool covers like Ramones, like Love Kills. He does some Iggy, I believe, some Dictators, and some unforgettable originals that only Bert could write, man, like really good punk rock and roll. Thank you guys for watching this story. Sorry it's a little long-winded, man. I just wanted to let you know that I do have a lot more Bert stories coming. I just got to put them together on paper, man, and try to separate some of the details, because I'm telling you, I never hung out with those guys. It's from 85 to the middle of the 2000s without lots of alcohol being involved. Why do I always do this? I'm going to tie my hands together so I can't move them, and I'll just look like a double amputee. My friends, thank you for being here, and I'm just going to rock back and forth, me and my torso. I'm Johnny Eck from the movie Freaks. No, what a great movie, man. I missed that movie. Remember that movie? Have you guys ever seen the movie Freaks? Well, with all the different awesome human people that were treated like creatures. And, you know, back in the day, it was very exploitative, but I have great respect for those people. I do, and I've read books on all those people from the movie Freaks. And you know who was a fan of that movie? Beautiful Bert. And on that note, thanks again. More stories coming from the Beautiful One and 1096 and all that good stuff. And I bid you guys a fond, fond Tuesday evening, wherever you're watching. Rock on.